Good morning, Rabotai. Continuing on the Halacha Yomi, number 8. Yesterday we discussed a Gemara that if a person is going to take the boat within 3 days of Shabbat for something that is not a mitzvah, he's not allowed. And if it's before 3 days, he is allowed. There were many different explanations. What is the meaning of the Gemara? We mentioned yesterday one of them. Today we're going to mention another total different subject than yesterday. Yesterday we were speaking about taking airplanes and boats on Shabbat. Now we're going to speak about getting into situations of Pikuach Nefesh. The Baal HaMaor, Rav Zerachia Levi from the city of Lunil, which is the city of France. That's the way they called him, by the way, Me'ora Katan, the small light. In his explanation in the back of the Gemara, he's called Bala Ma'or, the Ma'ora Katan, the small light, because the Rif was the big light and he was the small light. And in French, how do you say the word moon? La Lune, Lunil. He came from Lunil, right? Okay, so the Bala Ma'or says that within 3 days, if somebody is going to travel and there's going to be a situation on the ocean that necessitates violating Shabbat, a person basically put himself in the situation of Chilul Shabbat. You're not allowed to put yourself in a situation, says the Bala Ma'or, that you're going to have to be Mechalel Shabbat. But 3 days beforehand, you are allowed. Because then already you did as much as you can. You shouldn't have had to expect that you might have to be Mechalel Shabbat. The very important explanation has many different ramifications based on this Bala Ma'or. Elective surgery. If somebody is going to into elective surgery, there are Rabbanim that say based on this, one should not get into an elective surgery within 3 days of Shabbat if it's going to necessitate that on Shabbat he's going to have to be Mechalel Shabbat. If it's something small that he's not going to necessitate it, that's one thing. But if he thinks that it's very probable that he's going to have to be Mechalel Shabbat, it's better that he doesn't get into it. Obviously, and it would depend on the surgery. Another ramification is that there was actually a minhag in Morocco based on Rav Yuda Ayash from Algeria that writes that any child that we are going to give him a brit milah that is not bismanu, so we wait. We don't give a brit milah within 3 days of Shabbat, he writes, because we are going to have to be Mechalel Shabbat for them, most probably, because within 3 days it's a difficult time for the brit milah, and therefore we push it off. Rabbi Avram Amar in the back of the notes of Magen Avot, Yoredea Siman Samech Vav writes that was the minhag in Meknes also, that they wouldn't give a brit milah within 3 days. And other Moroccan Rabbanim write this as well. In the book we quote that Rav Yedidia Monsonego writes this as well in Kupat Arochlim Erech Milah. The question is nowadays, does this apply? In the Sefer, we don't write nowadays does this apply or not. Really, once you consult his local Rav, because there are many Brit Milahs that happen within 3 days. There's one I think happening this week even, and it's not a and according to many opinions, they say even according to the minhag, nowadays the children became stronger. We don't need to do Brit Milah as much. We do find such a concept that a little bit the times have changed from the Chazon Ish in Yoredea Siman Kuf Nunei that writes that despite the fact that the Gemara tells us that a child born in the 8th month is not a child that's going to live according to chances, says the Chazon Ish, we see that nowadays that nature has changed. That nature indeed has changed. That children are born in the 8th month and they're fine, especially nowadays that there's incubators. They are fine. And the Sefer Milaki L'Chata writes that the opinion of the doctors nowadays is that if a child reaches a certain weight of 37 or 38 weeks, or some people weighed for a certain 3 kilograms, he writes, which is, not translated into pounds, he writes 3 kilograms, then a person could do a Brit Milah. The Sefer Otzara Brit also writes 2.5 kilograms, and you see that the weight is going up, you already would be able to do a Brit Milah. So it's not something definitive that you could say that, okay, that the minhag is nowadays, because it could be the minhag was in time where the children were weaker, but nowadays the child's stronger, one would be able to contend that. They should ask the Rav what the final psak halacha would be, but it's definitely a very fascinating question. Rav Elchanan Wasserman also has a diyun based on this halacha, how much a person is obligated to put themselves in sakana, how much a person is able to put themselves in sakana. So for example, if I'm not mistaken, I have to look it up again, that Rabbi Elchanan has a question whether a woman is allowed to get pregnant even though there's a sakana for her to get pregnant. Just a general question, nothing to do with Shabbat. So one of the proofs that he discusses is this Bala Ma'or. He says that you're not allowed to get into yourself into sakana even though you know you're gonna have to be mechalel Shabbat. So you're not allowed to get into yourself into sakana in the first place. But he says a lot of those argue on the Bala Ma'or. Or for the Dvar Mitzvah, you're allowed. So you see that you're allowed to enter maybe a situation of sakana, because otherwise, why would you be able to? Why would you be able to lechatchila do something that you would require a prohibition? So I think he's talking about whether you would have to take the baby away, we'd have to abort the baby so why get yourself into a sakana in the first place? I have to look it up, but it's something that he extrapolates from this halacha of the 3 days beforehand. So that is another explanation. So in summary, one is not allowed to get himself into a situation of danger within 3 days. For cruise ships, if nowadays we know that they are not going to get into a sakana, so this Balamor might not apply. There are other explanations say you're going to get seasick, you're not going to have kavod Shabbat. So then somebody has to know, is he allowed to take a cruise ship if it's not for Dvar Mitzvah? Is he allowed to take one within 3 days? Or if David Yosef discusses, nowadays the ships are bigger than Meiri says, so it doesn't apply. But the basic explanation over here is that if you're going to get yourself into a sakana, you shouldn't within 3 days based on this Balamor. Chazaku Baruch.